Welcome to the Tony Frida Show. Tony Frida here. Uh, just a little housekeeping. Every Monday on the Tony Frida Show, we're going to have Dr. Christine Marra with us on Mental Health Mondays. And then every Thursday, we're going to have Thought Crime Thursday with me, Tony Frida, and some of my thought criminal friends. And I just want to thank you all for the people who are watching and listening. I get great emails from you and great feedback. I would just ask that you press the little heart button and show love, because I would do it for you, and I do. I really appreciate it. We'd really appreciate it. So, and share with your friends.
Heart. Yeah, look, a heart.
Oh, yeah, that's it. Press that. So we really appreciate it. And we're trying to bring you some interesting, vital information and do it in a way that's hopefully not too boring.
Hopefully.
All right. So today we're going to talk about SSRIs, serotonin reuptake inhibitors, and
Another
selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. Right? These are psychotropic drugs.
That's one branch.
The one class of psychotropic drugs we're going to focus on today, and some of the adverse events that are associated with this, according to the literature and the research and the studies and the science, real science, not Fauci science, but actual science. And I'll put links to the studies in the show notes. So, and then we're going to ask Dr. Marra for ways to come off of these drugs safely, because you really have to titrate properly. If you just stop them, it's very dangerous. We're not medical doctors. We're not giving medical advice. We're giving advice based on research about safe ways to titrate and safe medical free or pharmaceutical free ways to treat anxiety and depression that have been shown to have some efficacy. All right, so some of the side effects of these wonderful drugs, antidepressants, that 40 to 60% of people who take SSRIs report having some degree of these things that I'm going to list. One is called emotional blunting, which patients commonly describe as reduced joy. That sounds like an antidepressant. Diminished grief. See, that they want to pathologize human emotion. I mean, grief is there for a reason. That pain is information. It's telling you to remember this person that you love. Medicating it is not a way to process your convalescence. They also experience less excitement, reduced empathy, feeling detached, and loss of motivation. This is from a qualitative study in the British Journal of Psychiatry. Documented many patients describing feelings of being emotionally flattened while taking SSRIs. Another wonderful side effect is sexual dysfunction. Typical rates reported in the literature: decreased libido, 30 to 70% of patients; delayed orgasm, 40 to 70% of the patients; erectile dysfunction in men, 20 to 50%; and anorgasma in women, common. That doesn't sound good. I don't like the sound of that. And I'm not even a woman. So they call it PSSD, which is post-SSRI sexual dysfunction. This is a very persistent problem that people have even after they take the meds for years. They have these sexual symptoms, and they include genital numbness, inability to orgasm, erectile dysfunction, loss of libido, and decreased pleasure. The wonderful antidepressant. And the other thing is, like I said, be very careful where you titrate. If you're on these things, many tens of millions of people are on them. I'm not a doctor, but I think they're wildly overprescribed, multi-billion-dollar industry for the drug companies. Surprise, surprise. So the withdrawal, if you don't titrate properly, can be really bad. It can include mania or hypomania, racing thoughts, impulsive spending, It's a weird one. Grandiosity, decreased need for sleep, and psychosis. So the depressant can make you psychotic. Also, there's not a lot of studies. A lot of these drugs are labeled for short-term use, and then people wind up being on them for decades. And there's no sufficient studies for these drugs for decades. Most of the trials only lasted 6 to 12 weeks. There's relatively little high quality evidence supporting long-term benefit over many years. It's tricky stuff, but it's all based on this serotonin hypothesis that depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in your brain, and these drugs provide the chemical that your body is not properly manufacturing on its own, right? But wait, there's more side effects.
Right.
Side effects including, these are the more physical side effects, physiological. 20 to 30% of people have nausea. 20 to 25% of people have headaches. 20% of people have fatigue, and a common long-term side effect is weight gain, emotional blunting, sexual dysfunction, up to 70%. And about 50% of the people who try to get off these have severe withdrawal symptoms. The common withdrawal symptoms include dizziness, anxiety, insomnia, nausea, agitation, crying spells, sensory disturbances, and depersonalization. And in extreme cases, the withdrawal can be accompanied by akathisia. This is the most dangerous of all the side effects. This is what, if you know Jordan Peterson, he was on Klonopin. It's not an SSRI, but it's benzodiazepine, and he's suffering from severe akathisia. And akathisia is characterized by unbearable inner restlessness, inability to sit still, severe agitation, panic, terror, and impulsivity. It's also associated with suicidal behavior and violence because you feel so horrible, you don't even want to live anymore. Another wonderful side effect of these drugs in young people, adolescents, is, and this is labeled in the insert, FDA black box warning states that antidepressants may increase suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Another antidepressant, huh? Makes you want to kill yourself. So that's all the symptoms of taking the drug, and then the severe withdrawal. About 25% of users, based on systematic reviews, experience severe withdrawal from these drugs trying to get off them. So they're really, I think the evidence shows they can be beneficial short term. We have a doctor here who's in this field for 20 some odd years, so she can speak to that. But a lot of these things don't sound like the anti part of antidepressant, do they, doctor?
No, they don't.
No, they don't.
They don't.
So we're also going to discuss, ask Dr. Marra for some ideas for non-pharmaceutical interventions. But first, let's play devil's advocate. Like, what is the benefit you've seen for your patients that have taken these SSRIs?
Well, I think I said in one of my last podcasts with you that, coming out of my training in graduate school as a psychologist, so I'm not a medical prescriber of these medications. I can't prescribe. I don't have prescription privileges to prescribe. Most psychologists don't. So just a little kind of closed caption warning here that I don't prescribe, but I will or have on occasion recommended medications for people when I felt like they weren't getting relief from their depressive symptoms or anxiety symptoms. So it would give people a relief a lot of the times. If somebody was suffering more with like a schizophrenia or psychotic disorder or a bipolar disorder, with a bipolar disorder, some of the medications that they might use would be like sometimes seizure kinds of medications to kind of level a person's mood out and keep them with having less lows and highs. And with schizophrenia, it's more trying to get at the symptoms that are really affecting their functioning adversely, right? Like being able to function in the here and now without having voices running in your head or seeing things that aren't there, or a lack of motivation, amotivational kinds of things. So the medications could help alleviate some of these symptoms that have people not functioning so well in their lives. So that was the one of the pros, the positives that I'd always seen about the medications over my career lifespan. And over the last, like I said in the former podcast, about the last 5 to 6 years, I'd say I've gotten really less inclined to recommend medication as the first line of intervention, like at all, unless the symptoms that the person has need like immediate relief, in emergent kind of situations. But if they're just, if it's like a low level kind of depression or even low level kind of anxiety, I usually, I've been emphasizing more mind, body, spiritual kinds of interventions, especially of late in the last couple of years, as the first line of intervention, not medication. Medication has become like at the bottom of my list.
Well, it's the bottom of your list, but I mean, 22% of all doctor visits. That means every kind of doctor, not just psychiatrists, any kind of
Psychology.
doctor, not just no, I mean, not just doctors who specialize in anxiety and depression. I'm talking about physical doctors.
Okay. Any MDs.
Any MDs. 22% of all MD visits end in a script for an antidepressant. So
Or
I think
anti-anxiety. Yeah.
and these people they're not trained for that. And what happens is
A lot of
people
them are
get
not.
addicted to it.
Correct.
They're wildly overprescribed. And if you want to get to the cause of it, you have to understand that the drug companies have captured the FDA, they've captured the medical industrial complex, they've captured the medical schools, the medical training. They write the textbooks for the medical schools. So you talk to a kid going to medical school now, he says like most of his time is spent memorizing drugs, and they just keep adding new ones every year.
Well, I think unfortunately part of the problem has been is when patients come to see a medical doctor with symptoms of something that seems physical, and the doctor can kind of figure out that it might not really be a physical thing. I hear those stories a lot. I'll hear that a lot with dermatologists and just regular MDs. Patients will come to them with something that appears to be physical, but it turns out, say the dermatologist, I used to go to this dermatologist, and when I was opening my practice, said, "Oh, give me a box of your cards," because half the people that come in here are coming in here with something psychiatric, not medical, but it looks like a skin condition, but they can tell, say for instance, that they've been scratching, and it looks like there's something wrong with their skin, but no, they're itchy. But it turns out it tends to be more of an anxiety disorder or some other kind of psychiatric thing. So I think sometimes what's happened is doctors are they want to help their patient feel better. And the pills just seem like a way to make them feel less helpless and powerless, the physician, and to give some relief and maybe perhaps immediate relief to their patient to feel better. Here's a pill. This should help you feel better. Thank God. All right. So it's out of good intentions, but there's been so much programming in medical school. Well, it is, I think, a lot of the times out of good intentions. I think, unfortunately, what's gotten lost is that the first line of intervention in medical school training should not be medications, right?
Yeah.
It should be what's going on with this person that they're excoriating, they're causing all these problems on their skin, or they keep coming in every other week with some kind of new spot that looks like skin cancer, and it's not.
Well, yeah.
Um,
Well, in a course of Miracles, which was supposedly downloaded from God to this woman who was an atheist, she
I didn't read it,
transcribed it. In this book, it says all disease is the cause of it is dis-ease,
yeah.
and meaning that all of our physical manifestations of illness are actually spiritual, psychological, they're emotional,
Yep.
and that's the real root of it. So this is
Yep.
why alternative treatments rather than medication, and rather than pathologizing it as some of these things are just part of the human condition, right? Like grief or uh, anxiety or
Yeah,
depression.
yeah. No, grief and anxiety. Let's take grief and anxiety, or depression and anxiety for that matter. Anxiety, if really, if you look at anxiety, not the exaggeration of anxiety, right? Like obsessive compulsive disorder, but just something people are nervous or worried about. Well, they probably need to be nervous or worried about it, but it's more when it takes hold and it consumes you that it's a problem. But we need anxiety, we need depression, we need these different mood states to kind of help us function in our life. It's just when it becomes more exaggerated, right, that it becomes more of a problem for us. And a pill isn't always the best fix for the problem. It is a fix for it, but it's not the best long-term solution for a problem like this.
Yeah,
But it's
and the
been
whole
made to appear that way by
well,
advertising.
well, they had to come up with this idea that's really never been proven, that at the heart of the problems is this chemical imbalance that can be fixed with a chemical, a pill.
Right.
And
There's no proof of that. We all have the same serotonin and dopamine and all that kind of stuff already in us for the most
yeah, so
part.
but a
Mhm.
multi-billion dollar industry is based on that one premise that's very suspect. So, and there's a lot of doctors challenging that right now, which is encouraging and exciting. Some of them here on Substack, and they're becoming more prominent. And I think that I'm hoping that their research starts to gain more attention because it's real science, again, not Fauci science. So, what are some of the treatments that you think have efficacy that are not pharmaceutical?
The treatments that are not pharmaceutical that I think have the most efficaciousness to them would be therapy. I'm a therapist. Um, so that's one that I subscribe to because I think, particularly with just relational therapy, general therapy, rather than we're going to talk about CBT or DBT, dialectical behavioral and psychoanalysis, and all these different types of schools of therapy. The whole idea of therapy is to kind of get at the things that are stressing us out or worrying us or consuming us or making us sad or making us anxious and giving us real coping strategies, right? In the concrete here and now, maybe getting an understanding of historically what's kind of contributed to this maladaptive way that we're coping with something, say, and to have a connection with somebody who might be empathic and ability to understand you, so you're not alone. So that's one of the better lines of treatment that I subscribe to. Another couple of things though that I always look at with anybody new that I'm seeing, and even along the way in treatment, is exercise and diet. Exercise movement is something that is so important to everybody. Everybody needs to move their body every single day. And the more you move your body, not in a crazy, Olympic kind of crazy way, like a marathon, but the more you move your body, the better you'll feel physically, mentally, spiritually. The other thing that I've become a very big proponent of and emphasizing is meditation and spirituality. And that could, take the form of, going to church or going to some kind of school of or some kind of religious, whatever affinity that you have, prayer and worship, because it also brings you in touch with community and other people that are like-minded, and you're not alone again. And you know that there's people that are going to be kind to you and you're going to be kind to them. And by showing and giving kindness to other people and receiving it, there's a huge psychological benefit to that too. It's been shown. So, and then meditation in and of itself teaches you how to be more grounded and connected with yourself and not 5 steps ahead thinking or projecting into the future, future worry or concern, or dwelling in the past of some bad thing that happened to you. I became very interested in psychology when I was an undergraduate, and that's why I went into psychology. Otherwise, I was going to be a lawyer, so watch out. Um, but
Oh yeah,
I
tell
took,
that. tell that story. It's a great story, like where you sort of made that choice because of your professor's experiences.
So I was all lined up to go into law school. I was pre-law, and I took an abnormal psychology class with this very eccentric psychologist named Donald Levis, who he was kind of the inventor. I'm going to use the word implosive therapy, which is what it was called before it changed to exposure therapy, which is exposing people to feared things like dogs or snakes or roller coasters, airplanes. So exposure therapy. He called it implosive therapy, which didn't have as much of a, I guess,
Wasn't marketed.
appealing sound to it.
It wasn't focus grouping well.
So, but anyway, in his class, I think it was my first class with him. With his big pipe, he's smoking like a Freudian. He tells the story of a patient he had that he was treating for a while, and as they started to uncover her severe sexual trauma that was caused by like satanic, ritualistic sexual abuse, where she was burned and whipped in her, you can say on her trunk area. So as this stuff started to be uncovered in therapy, the next time she appeared for therapy, she had all these marks on her abdomen, but she hadn't been being abused anymore. They just kind of appeared kind of magically, kind of oddly. And it fascinated me because it made me realize that the mind and the body are way more connected than we give them credit for whatsoever. And this is why I went into psychology, because I thought if I could help people with that, see that, they could feel so much better. Body and mind and body, they go together always and forever. And if you try to take them apart, you're going to have a lot of problems, right? If you just become an intensive exerciser and you work out and work out and work out all the time, you're probably going to cause some very significant problems physically, mentally. Cortisol levels are going to be too high, etc. And the same if you're just too cerebral and you're not physically active enough, right? You're going to lose muscle mass. So anyway, the mind and the body, that's a very simple kind of examples I just gave, but the mind and the body are so connected. And that was what made me go into this field. But then I got a little derailed with, learning about medications and seeing how helpful those could be. Forgetting why I originally went into the field was so I could help people feel better with their mind and their body. And if one could feel better, the other could feel better. They're not separate things. They're integral to who we are together.
Well, that segues into the other thing that's very important is, speaking of the body, is diet. You put in garbage, you get garbage out. So, I mean, they're proving that they're reversing so many different mental and physiological problems now just by changing people's diet and basically flipping the food pyramid upside down. So instead of having mostly carbohydrates and processed foods, you have mostly proteins and good animal fats, and you have very few carbohydrates. Just that
That's more of a
ketogenic
one of the
diet.
research things shows is a ketogenic diet. I think Stanford maybe reports this is super, super healthy for you in your mind and your body, because when you're eating too many carbs, it's not the carbs per se, but it's the conversion to the sugar, I believe. And it's the processing of the food we're eating. It's maybe that pasta in Italy might be totally fine, but it's the processing, the procedures with which foods are processed here is so unhealthy to begin with. So then you're consuming these things with chemicals in them that you shouldn't be having in your body. And it's messing up your brain health so much so that would lead to depression and anxiety. That alone can lead to depression and anxiety, your diet.
Yeah, your diet. And also things like screen time and social media can cause anxiety, atomization, alienation, depression.
Well, screen time, right? Screen time, per se, screen time, it produces a lot of dopamine, right? You get all these dopamine hits, and it's very energizing to us. which is it's overstimulating to us, and it doesn't give our brain a rest. Our brain needs rest, and we do not get rest when we're staring at a screen. People say, "Oh, I'm just gonna go scroll for 10 minutes on my phone." Really, it turns into 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of overstimulation, 30-second videos, and then you start to see stuff that might not even make you feel good about yourself, whether it be diet, your appearance. You're not doing enough to get smarter, and you don't have a TikTok following,
You
and
feel
you're not an
inadequate.
influencer, and all these things. Then you become overstimulated by the technology, and it's
Yeah.
really
So
bad for
it's,
your brain.
well, it's this idea that there's nothing worse for us humans than unearned dopamine. So that those little hits you get from
Hmm.
TikTok video, that's on unearned dopamine. The dopamine that we're designed to get is after we put some, it's a reward for putting effort or learning something or achieving something or accomplishing something. You get a
Hmm.
sense of well-being, a good sense of self-esteem. That's, the good use of dopamine design to make you a better person and more productive and more accomplished and smarter. So all this unearned dopamine winds up making you feel worse about yourself. So it's this, and now it's epidemic. These kids getting, or all of us really, just intermittent dopamine reinforcement. Like this, we're on a slot machine all day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really mind dulling. It's dulling to your mind and your body. It causes shrinkage to your brain. It doesn't cause creative thinking. It doesn't allow for any kind of creative thoughts or individuality or uniqueness whatsoever.
No, it's just passive. So that's another. So this is another thing. So I'm an art teacher, so I know the act of creation, right? By creating something rather than just consuming media all the time. Just any act of creation, to me, is a microcosm of the creation of everything. So it's a holy act. It's an act of hope, just creating. And this is where these things all come together. Where this has been proven through the research of Dr. Pennebaker, that journaling and self-authoring is very important, because just by writing extemporaneously your ideas and your thoughts and your experiences, you're processing it in a different part of your brain than when you're just thinking about it and ruminating it and digging these negative feedback loops.
Yes, and handwriting it as
Yeah,
opposed to
writing by
typing
hand,
it,
not on its yes, not on a keyboard,
is
writing by hand.
significantly different.
No, and they the best way for some reason for your brain to really connect with it is to use a white piece of paper with a blue pen. I don't know why.
Because you said, well, I'd imagine part of it, I don't know about the white blue thing, but the act of using your hand,
Yeah,
right? It's physical, right? So if you're righty, right, it kind of goes up and it goes to the left side of your brain. There's the language side of your brain, but you're also communicating emotions a lot of times when you're writing. So then you got more right brain side, and this is very simplistic the way I'm describing it, but you're not just using your mind, you're using your body as well to create something.
yeah, and I
Even
could.
your art, you're using your body as well to create.
Yeah, well, I use my art as a cathartic process because I try to transform through the creative act these negative emotions I have about learning about some of the really dark stuff in society and our culture and the demons that run everything on Epstein's Island. So I use the creative process as a way to transform these negative emotions like anger, fear, depression into something positive, into something, transform them through the creative act into something that's like hope. And it
Journaling
happens.
is also very good therapeutically
Journaling is
speaking.
very good.
I,
So
I
far
I
we
have
got
all my patients, I recommend the journaling to as well.
absolutely. So far we have exercise, diet, journaling, creative work. What else is it?
Therapy, well, so
Therapy, of course. Don't forget
therapy,
that. Very
therapy,
important.
intellectual pursuits. Intellectual pursuits are important to have. It doesn't matter what they are, but creating a purpose for your life beyond just, if you just have like a kind of a blue collar job that you don't find stimulating, having something else that you do that's creative, whether it's gardening or writing a book or learning a new skill, like ceramics or horseback riding or playing pickleball. It doesn't matter. It's just the idea of doing those things is, first of all, it's good mind and body, but it takes you away from the things that you might be struggling with, right? Psychologically, right? And realizing that there's more to life than just that thing that you get stuck dwelling in or ruminating about or feeling bad about. When you start moving or when you start engaging in something that makes you have to think about things differently.
Yeah. So that's all great stuff. And the flip side of that is they're proving that this non-sleep rest is very important. You also need to give your brain a rest. You can't just keep going 24 hours a day, because
Yeah.
your brain needs time to just, it needs time. The other thing we need, which you mentioned with gardening, is time in nature. I mean, the
Yeah.
kids today are in nature a tiny fraction of the time that I was when I
It
was a
should be
kid.
about an hour a day in
At
nature.
least, at least it should. Optimally, it's much more, because we're designed to be in nature. We're designed to be outside. We're not
We
designed to
are
be
nature,
in a
right?
room. Well, we are nature, but also we spend 90% of our time in a room with, fluorescent lights or whatever, and that's not healthy. So just forcing yourself to get out into, take a walk in the park, or just sit on a bench and look at the water if you're near the water, or look at a tree, or hug a tree.
And rest. When you talk about rest, I was just reading a little bit about this. I've always heard the phrase yoga nidra, or meditation nidra, yoga nidra, I believe. It's a type of meditation, which I guess is what I realized I've been doing a lot of. It's meditation, but it's not as an active meditation, like when you're sitting cross-legged with your posture upright and you're kind of just closing your eyes and you're either following a guided meditation or you're kind of emptying your mind, you focus on your breathing, is a type of meditation. But yoga nidra is when you're in a relaxed pose, right? So laying down on your back and you got your eyes closed, and you're following along a guided meditation or you're creating your own in your mind, but it's in a more relaxed posture. Is really, so it's kind of like what you described as just non-sleep rest. Yoga nidra is a type of that rest. It's really, meditation and prayer are very, 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 very good for your brain. They're super
Yeah,
good. And we release a chemical called GABA, which is a type of protein, which helps us feel good, helps us feel less depressed. It helps us stay more even keeled. It helps us not get kind of caught up in an emotion in an extreme way where we can't let go of it. Like I always call it with my patients, like you're velcroing yourself to the emotion, right? Like you can't let go of it. You're stuck with it and it's on repeat in your head over and over and over again. But when you do meditate and you do prayer, or you do one or you do the other, you find that you're more grounded and less attached in a velcro way to any emotionality.
yeah. I was reading some interesting thoughts on emotions, and it's this idea that when you're angry, anger is really an expression of a time when you're feeling powerless. Because when you get angry, it's this sort of feeling of false bravado, right? You feel powerful when you're angry. So it's a craving for power in a
Yeah.
time when you feel powerless. So anger is a substitute for, it's not really powerful being angry. You're not doing anything powerful, but
No,
when
it's usually ineffective.
it's ineffective,
It
and
can be at first effective, but when it's lasting anger, it's not
yeah, it winds up hurting you, and then the
hurting others.
toxins and stay in your body, the cortisol, for 6 hours after you get angry. So you can screw your whole day up just getting angry. So
Well,
anger
if you
makes
can
me
hold
mad.
on to it for 90 seconds or less, you're good.
But then the other side of that is depression and sadness. Is really, what you're craving there is sympathy. Because when you feel bad, people want to come over and say, "Oh, I'm sorry you feel bad." So you're really craving sympathy when you're sad, and power when you're angry. So it's just one way to look at it. I think is very interesting.
It's a very when you're depressed, it's more of a helpless feeling, right? Like a learned helplessness kind of feeling.
Yeah. So you want somebody to come and comfort you, and that's a way of. I mean, you're not doing it consciously, but it's a defense or a survival mechanism to get the comfort when you need it most. because it engenders other people's empathy. When they see you suffering, they want to come over and say, "Hey, you
Yeah,
okay?"
and so, to kind of go full circle here with this is a conversation about all the symptoms that medications are treating, right? So all the psychotropic medications are attempting to treat is depression, anxiety, anger, because anger, bleeds into depression. Anger can bleed into anxiety and vice versa, right? They kind of bleed into each other. And then just all the other kinds of moody irregularities that people have, or concentration, attention difficulties with ADHD.
Yeah. So a lot of these drugs, one of the side effects I talked about was emotional blunting. So it's about dulling the emotions. So pathologize the emotion, the human condition that these things are just endemic to, and then medicating them and numbing you to the pain of life rather than figuring out healthy ways to manage it, like all the ways we talked about.
Yes.
So it's sort of a shortcut. It's a shortcut to some sort of place of enlightenment, which is always a bad idea. You got to go through. It goes to the Christ model where you got to go through the suffering. You got to slay your dragons. You got to integrate your shadow, face it head on, rather than trying to numb yourself from it. That's why Jung was totally against alcohol or any kind of drug, because he said, no, that pain is there for a reason. Like that
Yeah.
pain is information. That pain is initiation. That pain is vitally trying to tell you something important. So instead of just
Right.
numbing
Right.
yourself to it, try to really understand what is it, why am I really feeling this, and then start to work on the problem through all the methods that we talked about.
Correct. Instead of looking at your mental health difficulty or challenge, it's not yours. First of all, it's an experience you're having, right? You don't own it. It's an experience you're having that it's something that is information that's trying to tell you something. So if it's a chronic kind of thing, it's telling you like something in your life isn't working quite right and you have to readjust, right? And kind of change the direction of the sails maybe to find a better way in your life. And sometimes those things take a long time and a lot of struggle, but there's so many other ways. There's so many other ways to feel better that medication is not the answer, in my opinion, anymore. Anymore.
Yeah,
I
I
still
think
I still will use it. I'll still recommend it to people, but
now I
it's
think history is going to look back at this period where and just say people were wildly over medicated for things that are just part of the human condition, and they were pathologized when they shouldn't be, and they've suffered greatly from these adverse reactions that we're talking about.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so the titration is tricky, right? Trying to get off of these things.
Yeah, so I did a little research. You had told me about this medical doctor that was on I think he was on Tucker
Yeah,
Carlson,
he's all over the place right
a
now.
couple other shows. He's a board certified psychiatrist. His name is Dr. Joseph Witt Doring, and the reason I'm saying it very clearly out loud is because I want people to have this resource in case they want it. He is a board certified psychiatrist, and he worked for the FDA, and he also did a fellowship for Johnson and Johnson, running their clinical trials for some of the psychotropic medications that they worked on there at Johnson and Johnson. And he has since come to the conclusion, like I have, that medication isn't probably your best option and intervention for dealing with most mood related issues. And when I say mood, it's a catch all. I'm going to include ADHD in there. I'm going to include bipolar and schizophrenia, depression and anxiety. I mean, look, there are some very certain specific situations where people really do need the medication but with more severe symptoms. Okay. But he runs a clinic called the Taper Clinic. Taper, TAPER Clinic. I think it's taperclinic.com. And he gives a free guide to help people who want to try to come off these medications that are having a hard time. Because one of the things he talks about is why do most tapers fail? When people they don't want to be on this medication, whatever it might be, Zoloft, Lexapro, Paxil, You name it. Wellbutrin, I can go on. There's a whole list that goes on and on. They don't want to be on it anymore. And when they try to come off it themselves, it usually isn't successful because they wind up getting a rebound in symptoms. And the doctor will say to them, they go to the doctor, say, look, I tried to come off this medicine. It didn't help. It didn't work. I wasn't able to come off. I got like all these symptoms came right back. And doctor said, aha, see, you still need to be on this medication, when that's not exactly true. And the doctor usually doesn't even know that that's not the truth, that probably what they're experiencing isn't symptoms of the depression or anxiety, but they're experiencing withdrawal symptoms from stopping the medication incorrectly.
Yeah, that's
Because
the big why. Yeah.
there's a way to come off these medications that requires a taper. And you'll hear more about it with medications like the benzodiazepines, like Xanax or clonazepam, which are extremely strong. Okay. So you can't just, if you've been taking something like that cold turkey, taking something like that chronically for a long time, if you go to stop it, if anybody goes to stop it and they've been taking it, they're going to get heavy duty withdrawal. Now, again, I have to say, I'm not a medical doctor, so I don't have all the qualifications to advise on how somebody should taper.
No.
But what he's explaining in his is like a 40-minute free video that he offers to people who want to taper. He also offers a program that you can buy into through he has a clinic, it's online. You can pay, it's several $1,000s per month.
Yeah, it's way too expensive, but but
It's
the
a little too
information,
inaccessible for most people, I
yeah,
believe. But what he talks about is he talks about why most tapers have failed. And part of the other reason most tapers have failed is that doctors don't know how to do it. They don't know how to taper somebody off these medications. So they're trained in school how to prescribe the medicine for the symptoms, but they're not trained in how to help somebody wean off or taper off these medications. They're not trained in it. So they'll kind of just say when somebody comes back and says, I tried to come off this drug and this is what happened, they say, see, you need to go back on it. And they go back on
yeah,
it and it just keeps going around and around and around in a circle. So he starts to talk about, well, he talks about like a 3-tier approach to coming off these medications. And the one approach is first deciding which medications you're going to taper off of, because the side effects might be intolerable, unbearable. Then he describes in very, very detailed ways the strategies to do it, which are getting liquid doses, right, from compound pharmacies. You can get any drug in compound form from a pharmacy. They'll put it into a liquid form, so you can get a more exacting dose if you want to try to titrate off. I'm not going to go into the specifics because this is not my area of expertise at all. But or you can take pills that are tablets. So there's several drugs that are oftentimes in a time release form, which everybody's heard of, right? Like XR, XL, like Wellbutrin, XL, XR. There's several psychotropic medications that come in time release form. That's so to help the person get a gradual amount of the drug in their system over the course of a day, right? So it's supposed to be better for you in that way. But you can't just break those pills. Those pills are coated. And if you break it, you're actually, and you try to take a broken time release pill, you're actually going to cause more harm to your system. So these kinds of pills need to be changed over. If you have an XL and XR, one of those time release kinds of medications that you want to come off of, you need to get them switched over to a tablet form. But he gives all these instructive things in his video that he has on this.
yeah. Again, so we're not claiming to give medical advice. We're giving information that this doctor's done a lot of research on, and hopefully send you in the right direction if you're trying to get off of these, because you have to be very careful. If you look into the school shooters, like 90% of them were either on these drugs, or a lot of times they just stop taking them. And what happens in severe cases, they get a psychotic break if they just stop the meds, and then the next day they go shoot up a school. And it says right in the insert,
very dangerous.
It increases suicidal and homicidal ideations. And especially in adolescence. And what are the school shooters? They're adolescents. These drugs affect the adolescent brain differently than a fully formed adult brain. So in extreme case, these drugs, can cause horrible disasters to happen in the human
And
mind.
so can the withdrawal from them. And that's why the withdrawal has to be done very carefully. And it's very hard to find doctors that are able to help somebody do this. And when I know many people have gone to doctors to try to come off these things, and they just get dissuaded from it or told the symptoms are going to come back. And, the research on these drugs has never been intended for long-term usage. You'll have people on 20, 30, 40 years on these medications, but you cannot just come off these medications abruptly, because we have all these nerves, right? These nerve passageways in our body, all over our body, particularly in our brain. And in between each nerve connection is a little, to keep it very simple, there's a little dumping that goes on from one nerve to the next nerve, and it dumps the drug onto the next nerve. So some of the drugs like Zoloft and Prozac, what they do is they serotonin reuptake inhibitor, right? So they're holding onto the serotonin that we all have. We all have serotonin. It's not like you have more than I. We all have the same amount, generally. Serotonin gets held back from getting dumped onto the next nerve. So the whole theory is that the more serotonin we have in us, the better our mood, the less depressed we'll feel, right? So if you just abruptly stop one of these medications, you're not getting you're getting like a stalemate in your system, or you're losing the dumpage to the next one. Depends on the drug, right? Some of them dump it, some of them holding it back. You're getting an absence of the drug that your brain was craving and got used to for so long. And suddenly your brain is like, what the hell's going on? I used to have this thing going on in here. It kept everything running well. And now it's just poof, it's gone like this.
Yeah.
So what are we going to do? So your brain is trying to adjust, but if you do it too fast, you're going to get serious withdrawal symptoms. You're going to get sick. You might get serotonin syndrome. You might get brain fog. You might get brain zaps. You might get severe fatigue. You might get agitation. You might get psychosis. You might get suicidal ideation. But that's not that you're having those. That's the chemicals causing that.
Well, that's the lie. They make you think that this is what, see what happens when you get off the drug. This is how you are. This is how you naturally are, and it's not true.
And that's not true.
It's a big lie. And another thing about this is, if you look at in Europe, right, they have the EU has their version of the FDA, which is, it's corrupt, but not nearly as corrupt as the FDA, which might be the most corrupt organization in human history. Because remember, FDA approved, right? Thalidomide was FDA approved, right? Remember little flipper babies? Like, that's when I was a kid. So that was approved. They said, take the thalidomide. Nothing to see here. Nothing to worry about.
Morning
right?
sickness. It was for morning sickness, I believe.
Well, here's another problem. So, and I heard Whit During talking about this. Like, some women take these SSRIs when they're pregnant. Now, they've done the mice studies, right? When a mouse is pregnant, and gestating and is taking these drugs, their offspring, because it does, goes into the bloodstream of the baby while it's gestating.
Yeah.
And it causes lifetime problems of sexual dysfunction, no interest in sex.
With the children?
The children so taking these during pregnancy is very dangerous. And
well, the baby will get withdrawal symptoms. That I know for sure. If the mother's taking an SSRI when they're pregnant, and the whole point of that is to prevent postpartum depression. That's one of the, or the mother suffered with depression before,
but
and so
you
she wanted to continue doing it while she
you're
was
damaging
pregnant.
your child for the rest of their life. This is what the latest studies prove. And in Europe, like I said, like for example, Novo Nordisk makes Ozempic in Europe. It's banned because 90% of their market is America, because our wonderful FDA approved it. And their version of the FDA, or in Japan, like, they don't approve this stuff because they're not as wildly, cravenly, demonically corrupt as our FDA is. And they at least have some, some semblance of wanting to not poison their own people. Like our regulatory agencies have been captured by the drug companies that they're like, Epstein's buddies, and they don't care. They care about the bottom line, and they like hurting people, and they like us sick. They like us manageable. They think about us as livestock. They believe in Malthusian, the population eugenics agenda put forth by the Fabian socialists 100 years ago. And we're coming to the end of the long march where they said they're going to destroy us with inoculations and indoctrinations. And just look around you. People have been inoculated and indoctrinated into oblivion.
Amen.
Yeah, that's my rant. But anyway, I want to thank you, Dr. Marra, for your learned professional expertise on this subject. And I again, be very careful coming off these drugs, but go to a therapist.
You can come off them. They're really I guess that's, today we're going to just tell people that there are ways to come off them.
Yeah.
And there are ways to do it smartly. But you really should check it. If you really do want to come off any of these medications, try to check out this video I'm talking about from this link of, it was taperclinic.com. Or you can even probably Google the name Dr. Joseph, Josef, Witt Doring.
Yeah, I'll put it in the show notes.
He's the expert on it.
Yeah, consultant expert. And also, before you go on these drugs, try these other non-pharmaceutical interventions.
Yes, please try these things first.
And
exercise, diet.
The other thing we didn't mention is another intervention I know you've spoken about to your patients is get off the pot.
Oh, pot. Yeah.
So a lot of people
it's going to make you more anxious more than you think. Alcohol is going to affect your sleep. Pot's going to affect your sleep. Sorry, caffeine. Caffeine is going to affect your sleep a lot as well. Really, Dr. Witt Doring expressed the importance of not having too much coffee past 10 a.m. in the morning.
10 a.m.
It affects your sleep. I thought 2 p.m. was okay. But anyway, he talked about, yes, no nicotine, no caffeine.
What? I don't like this guy anymore.
No pot and no alcohol.
Yeah,
they're really they really, unfortunately, but they give you that instant gratification. That's why people like them, right? That's the reinforcement component to them. They make you feel better at the moment. The problem is in the long term, they can lead to other serious problems. And sleep is the other really important thing we didn't mention in depression and anxiety and even the psychotic disorders, or even with dementia. Really not getting enough sleep leads to a lot of psychiatric issues, a lot. And I'm not saying this to make you feel stressed out there, who's ever not getting enough sleep, but more to just look at the things you can do to create a better sleep pattern, sleep routine for yourself.
Try to get off the screens an hour before you go to bed and try to keep the room as dark as possible. There's a whole bunch of little hacks you can do. You could look at
white noise machines, fans.
Yeah, it really is, because your brain washes itself while you're sleeping and it resets, so it's critically important. That's a good one. But again, I want to thank you, Dr. Marra, and I hope you guys that are suffering from depression and anxiety can get some relief, because we know how just devastating it can be.
Yeah.
We love you, and we just want you to heal and to live in peace of mind, peace of body, peace of spirit.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Press the heart. Oh.
I did it.